Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you to these two wonderful women who I are not only peers of mine, but also I have the pleasure of calling my friends, Serena Burgess and Dr Kamala Easton. Thank you for being here with what I believe is one of the most important conversations of our time: how to live well, live fully and live long in a world that is moving faster every day. Colombo is becoming a modern global city, and with that noise comes pressure and constant stimulation. And yet, people who live the longest, the centenarians around the world, live very differently. They live in community, they live with purpose, they move their bodies daily, and they stay emotionally connected, they stay grounded, and they honor their inner rhythms. Serena brings the perspective of collective movement. After 25 years in the practice of teaching yoga, she continues to remind us that yoga was never meant to be an individual, isolated pursuit. It was created as a community practice to unite people, not just for personal well-being, but for the greater good of humanity. In a world that has become very individualistic, her message is that community-based movement may be one of our greatest medicines. Dr. Kamala Easton, who after 20 years of research and administrative work, shifted her life completely, spending the next 20 years focused on intuitive work and inner wisdom traditions. She reminds us that longevity isn't just about what we do, it's about how deeply we know ourselves. She teaches us that true resilience comes from turning inward, creating stillness, strengthening intuition, and trusting the wisdom that lies beneath all the noise. In a city that constantly pulls us outward every moment, she guides us back to our own center. And my name is Tanuja Perera Raymond, and I'm a strength and reinvention coach. I work with grounding people in the idea that you are never fixed. You can reinvent yourself at any stage of your life through strength training, mindset work, nervous system regulation, and facial fascial release. You can reclaim your power and step into the most confident and aligned and elevated version of yourself. I believe that integrated health and understanding that movement, nervous system regulation, and emotional healing and lifestyle choices contribute to longevity far more than supplements and wellness fads ever will. Together we aim to discuss how we can live longer and live better, live more connected to ourselves, to our bodies, and to each other. So today, the conversation will explore how community, movement, inner wisdom, emotional healing, and grounding daily rituals can help us not just to survive in a city like Colombo, but to thrive in it. Ladies, research shows that living in communities, like blue zones in the world, they live very differently to us. They share one thing, that they don't do things alone. They tend to move together, they rest together, and they build things through community. I personally have seen this through building my own community, through my work with my fitness studio, Kinetic, and how people have a sense of belonging, not just a sense of being fit. Serena, where do you think that yoga fits into this idea of longevity and emotional well-being? And why did you choose to come back to Sri Lanka, being away and raised in the West after so many years?
So I'll answer the second part first, actually.
Okay.
I chose to come back to Sri Lanka because I was feeling more and more like the way we were living in London was isolating, and all my friends had moved out of the city, and I kind of was feeling like I had to make an appointment to see the people that I loved. And it just didn't feel like a healthy way to be living my life. So coming back to Sri Lanka, I gave my children the gift of being raised around their grandparents and our extended family, friends here where I could just drop in instead of making an appointment.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that coming from London, because I do feel like, because it is such a large city, people are very scattered, right? And you do find, even though you're in this place of so much noise and movement, you can feel very alone, right? And very disconnected because you don't have that opportunity to constantly meet up with a friend, even if it's just random. I feel like in Colombo you could just say, want to grab a coffee, and it's very much more a doable thing, right? Where in London it's like, do you want to get a coffee in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Can you fit me in?
I think the thing that really flipped it for me was my daughter got chicken pox and I had to go to work and I just didn't have a single person that I could rely on to look after her for the day. And it was a real turning point in my mind. I was like, this is not how I want to live. So yeah. And how yoga fits into that, for me, and I guess this is the premise that my practice has kind of developed and evolved to. So yoga for sure is all the things we think of it as for knowing ourselves and our personal evolution. But my understanding of the practice is that we are also called in some way to serve, in some way to recognize our role in a wider space. One of the foundations of the practice is that we are part of a collective consciousness. We're often told in yoga classes, we are one. We're all, I am you, you are me. And I remember thinking years ago, what does that even mean? Like, I'm not you, I'm me. And over time, I've interpreted that, and it definitely is my interpretation of ancient wisdom, that actually I'm called to be in service to community, take a stand when I see injustice. All of that stuff sort of feels very much a part of my practice. So if you come to yoga class with me, you end up getting usually some kind of lovely quote that then asks you to think about how you can make a difference in your world with the things that are important to you. Your thing might be different from my thing, but once we all add up the things we find valuable and important that we want to stand up for, we end up with a better world, is my theory.
Kamala, you've lived all around the world. But what was your experience of traveling around India and now Sri Lanka like, and how does it compare with the US? What differences do you see in this sense of community and belonging?
Thank you, Tanuja. I was thinking, after all, I think I'm one of the older members of this panel, so I can really talk about over time. And I remember, as a Black American from California, that we always used to have our family, extended family, grandparents, picnics, all of the things that you might see here in Sri Lanka still. But as time went by and we became nuclear families, separated from our extended families, life changed drastically. And and I don't see that anymore in America at all, actually. One of the things that I did notice, and you brought this up about grandparents, it goes both ways. One thing I noticed is that I spent 25 plus years in India, and I would see how Indians, and probably Sri Lankans, can go to the West, go to America, and become very successful, got the intellect, the technological skills. But the other thing that they have is this ability to live together. And so they can go, and 2 families will live together, or 5 young men will live in an apartment, and that allows them to save money so that they can save the money that they make and actually become successful in the West. Whereas we Westerners, we Americans, we don't live like that. We spend every dollar on rent, on house note, on food, everything. Whereas people who have the sense of community can be very successful in a place like the West. So there's many benefits. And the other one that I really see is, you spoke about, and also financially, we all have to pay for babysitters, for preschools, for our young ones. We don't have grandparents and aunts and uncles to take care of our kids. So that's hitting your finances right away. But it's also depriving the children of this connection with their grandparents and their aunts and uncles and cousins that you still have here in this beautiful island where everybody knows everybody and everyone is connected. And it's such a powerful, wonderful thing that you have to hold on to, I feel. The other thing is I saw a grandparent that I met in Los Angeles who, she was at her home, her old home, and she had a caregiver there. And she was Jewish, and she would sit and read the Torah, and she barely could walk, and that was her life. And 2 years later, I went back, and the daughter had asked her to come to her house and watch her grandchildren, her children, right? When I saw this grandmother 2 years later, she was vibrant and active and strong and spoke. Is this the same woman? It was quite amazing how being active and participating with your family and with your community can change your longevity, can change your value for life. She was a different person. It was really beautiful to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this idea that we need to have connection with other people is one of the major pillars of living long and living well, right? When we are isolated, when we don't have friendships, when we don't have that sense of community or people to support us and for us to support other people, I think this is one of the things that really does drain us as individuals, and we see that in our older people. I mean, in the West, it's as soon as people are older, they're kind of ushered into a home, and you watch them deteriorate very quickly, whereas here, we still have that thing where we take care of our elders. And that is something that I think that we need to really hold on to, because I think it's one of the reasons that people live long and live well in this country is because everybody is taking care of one another. Would you agree, Serena? I mean, you've experienced this firsthand with your own experience of having come back.
Yeah, 100%. We have benefited as a family so much from our connection with my parents, and I know that being around my children, my parents have really enjoyed that, and it's given them sort of the energy and the will to keep kind of being active. I think there's also an interesting thing about, in the West, we kind of kick our kids out of our homes at 18, and I think it speaks actually to a system that, based on capitalism, it brings a new consumer into the world. And if people were sort of more interdependent with their families, then the whole system kind of would have to re-evaluate how it's working. Because as soon as your child goes out into the world, they're also paying that rent that we're paying, they're also sort of getting that mortgage, and I'm not suggesting we all live at home for the rest of our lives.
I mean, yeah, that does happen quite a bit too much in Sri Lanka. Quite the opposite. In fact, you've got people who are like 50 still living at home with their parents.
But I do think that this automatic, like, okay, this is the moment, you're out in the world. And
it's very sterile.
Yeah, and I think it actually promotes a system of separation. So yeah.
Ladies, we look at Colombo now, and as it evolves, it's becoming this very sort of overstimulated, traffic-based, screen-based, deadline-based type of a city. And having lived all around the globe, I mean, it's comparable for me to like London and New York in many ways now. But I personally feel like our biology is still very primitive, our minds, our bodies, like we're just not as developed as the world we're moving with. What do you feel the sort of daily rituals and grounding techniques that we can incorporate into a city like Colombo for us to be able to really reconnect with our bodies? Serena, I'll go to you first.
Come on, needs to take that one.
Okay.
Well, First of all, you live on this beautiful island. And one of the greatest healers on this planet is nature. It is here. All you have to do is look out that window right there. You know, that is what it is here for. I had a very powerful experience, or many powerful spiritual experiences, but one was life showing me that you can actually take your stresses, your fears, your anger, take it to nature. Just go and take it in, give it over to it. It's there for that. I was told that nature is there for our healing. So you don't have far to go at all. You just step out there and look at that ocean and take it in. You go into the jungles, into the inner parts of Sri Lanka. You don't have to go away for a week or a month. You just take an hour or two. In the West, I always laugh. Businessmen play golf, right? And they just love it. And I realize it's the greenery. They are spending 2 hours on Saturdays walking in nature. And it's healing them, and they have no idea that it has that effect on the system. So, and I also, as a teacher, want to let you know that you can just go inside. Within you is a stillness that is bigger than this technology, than this world that we are caught up in. My whole teachings are about from the head to the heart. You know, going beyond the mind. I have this PhD. I spent 20 years in academia, and then 20 years not using this at all. And it's so much better. I loved that research life. I love that statistical life. I did. But I like this one much more. And it's so natural. It's just basically who we are. So we don't have to change much, but just come inside. And it's a beautiful balance for this technological world. And I just want to say that I went to India first 26 years ago, and I remember the people that I would meet, they would say, come home, you know, these big hearts, like I feel the hearts in Sri Lanka. And yet 26 years later, when I was in India, it was just give me money. I'm not meaning to put the country down, but you know, the energy had shifted because of this focus on money, focus on success. You know, everything had changed, and it was so sad. But here in Sri Lanka, when I decided to move here, come here, I asked one of my students who had been, I said, so seriously, tell me really, what did you think about Sri Lanka? And she said, Kamala, they're the kindest people I have ever met in all my travels. So don't lose it, is what I would say. And it's a beautiful balance for whatever you're doing on that computer or to make money, the things that we have to do in life these days.
Serena, what sort of practices do you think people can incorporate into their daily lives when they're in these sort of corporate situations?
People just need to slow down a little bit. I'm speaking to one person, particularly in the audience that I know today. I think, I don't want to use the word mindfulness, but consideration in the things that we choose to spend our time doing, consideration in the people we choose to surround ourselves with, just being a little slower and a little more considerate about, again, how we use that nature. Agreed, we must use nature for absorbing and reconnecting, but we also have to be considerate about how we're treating our planet. And I just think this ability to consider all of our choices will help us to slow down. When we talk about digital, you know, I think it's important that we observe what's going on in the world, but we also make space for digital detox and, you know, limit our consumption. Consumption is a major problem, I feel, in just how we're living our lives. So yeah, a little more consideration with all of our choices. Because I feel like we have choices, but we continuously think we're just supposed to do something in a particular way. And so we don't give ourselves the benefit of actually making considered choices.
I think it was quite interesting what you said about like also choosing who you choose to spend your time with, because that's a very important one, right? The people that you surround yourself with can very much affect your stress levels, your emotional well-being, and I think it's really important to make sure that the circle you keep is nourishing in both ways, right? You give to them, they give to you in a positive way. You don't feel emotionally drained when you walk away from a situation.
Yeah,
would that be on point?
Yeah, 100%. I think it can be very confronting when you hold significantly. I feel like the world is pretty polarized at the moment, and you can really find yourself in situations where you're holding very different opinions to other people. That's not to say we operate in a bubble, but for your, there are times when you need to be around like-minded people to soothe your soul.
Absolutely. Ladies, we know that being in that chronic state of fight or flight can create all kinds of illness in your body. And people who work in sort of high stress environments, this can, manifest in all kinds of illnesses. As your cortisol levels can go up and inflammation rises, people tend to shut down. What do you think about this idea of nervous system regulation? And Serena, how have you seen people kind of releasing stress on the mat? Is this something that you've experienced? Is this something that happens?
Yeah, I've seen people cry in their yoga classes and quietly in the back of the room. I think we live in a world where we can get very easily disconnected from our bodies because we're just doing, and we're living with, I feel like, a low-lying level of stress, which is constantly drip-feeding our system adrenaline. And we weren't built for that. Our fight or flight system was built for when the saber-toothed tiger is approaching us, we can run away really quickly.
Yeah, and we're still very much in that same primitive state within our bodies.
But we're living now without this surge of adrenaline for a specific reason. We're living with it just dripping into our system constantly, and it's really bad for our health. And so finding ways to regulate and put a pause on that, on the endocrine system essentially. We have lots of those practices in yoga. In fact, I can probably teach a quick one now.
Oh yes, we'd love that. Would you guys like to learn something today? Let's do it. Go for it, Serena.
So I teach, this is super simple, it's my favorite one, and I make everybody have a homework when they do it, which is teach one other person. Because it's really easy. And it literally, we have lots of nerve endings in our skin and our palms in particular, and it's called the soothing finger meditation. And all you have to do is with your thumb bring it to the base of your index finger, and you inhale and you just stroke up your index finger, and you exhale, you stroke down. You move it across to the next one, you inhale, you exhale. See if you can do it with your eyes closed, it's more effective. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. You can go back to the beginning if you wanted to do one more round with your eyes closed, working with your own breath, but you need to really slide your thumb from the base of the finger all the way up to the tip of the finger, and coordinate your breath. And when you get to the end of that second round, you can gently open your eyes. I don't know if that worked in this setting, but it's a tool. And I had a client who during COVID was having to use the trains in the UK, and it was really stressing her out because she would be the only person on the train. And it was really frightening for her. And she told me she just used to sit there doing this just to regulate and calm herself down. So there are lots of tools that will directly affect your nervous system that we have in our practice. And they can be as simple as that. And you have them all. They're like in your body.
That's the thing. I mean, that's what we need to understand. There's so many things that are within our own bodies that we can activate by ourselves without trying to look outside for the solutions to our stress. We just have to look in. So I do this type of face massage on people, and sometimes when people come and lay on my table, they come for aesthetic purposes, but I see as soon as they lay down, they close their eyes, their eyelids are fluttering because they are so highly stressed that their nervous system is literally unable to just calm down, not even for that moment that they've come for this hour of relaxation. And so the first thing I do is I get them to connect with their breath. They don't understand why I'm doing that. And the next thing I do is I literally start to massage right here at the back of their ears. And this area is where your vagus nerve is. And so immediately I start to see, as I start to put pressure on that area, gentle pressure, but just gently getting them to breathe and holding that area, I start to see the eyelashes go from this to this. And then I know they're ready. And then I begin. You know what I mean? So it's like, those things are there. Your body has the tools to fight this stuff. You just need to know where they are and how to activate them, and we've all got them. Mentally and emotionally, when people kind of shift out of that fear and into like a feeling of safety in their bodies.
First, I'd like to say I had one of her treatments. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
For about a week. Actually, my whole speaking and energies were open that I didn't even know were blocked, so it was great.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much.
Relates what they were saying earlier, I think the breath is just so important. I almost forgot. What was the question?
You know what? Let's talk about the breath because I think it's such an important one.
The breath is so important. You know, we don't think about it, but it is the first thing you do when you come on this planet, right? They smack that baby's bottom to make sure, right? That he's breathing, he or she's breathing, right? And it's the last thing you do when you leave. The final breath, right? That's how important the breath is for life. But we have no clue as to how powerful breath is. You know, you can go without food for a month or whatever, you can go without water for a week, but the breath you can't go without for a few minutes, right? And so the breath actually has so many healing abilities that we're just not aware of. And in some ancient cultures, they really do teach you all the different practices that you can do for blood pressure, for stress, for sleep. There's different rhythms of breath that you can do to heal everything. And in the moment, to just, you know, bring that stressful situation down to something more manageable. So it's not something that you have to do externally. Right within us is breathing. Another thing that we can focus on is feeling our feelings. We get so caught up. Did we talk about health yet? I think maybe we're going to talk about it now. Disease, right? In Ayurveda, they talk about the stages of disease. You know, first you just don't feel, you know the saying, I don't feel like myself today. We say it, right? But we don't really stop and think about that, but it comes out of our mouth. I don't feel like myself today, right? And then the next is, oh, I think I have a headache, right? And then, oh, my blood pressure's up, go to the doctor, and then all those different stages until you have full-blown cancer, right? But what about that first feeling that you felt, I don't feel like myself today, right? Did you have an argument with your boss? Did someone say something to you that was insulting? Were you afraid about something that you couldn't handle at work? Did you have an argument with your spouse? But you just let it go, right? You didn't attend to it. You said, oh, I don't feel like myself today, right? But the body picks up everything. It knows everything. And so when we can begin to stop and actually feel what we're feeling. I always say, if you think about it at night, and maybe you had an argument with someone. People don't argue here. That's an American thing. We argue too much.
No, we don't
Use that examples.
Usually behind people's backs, but they definitely do.
Okay. But anyway, you have a stressful conversation, but you didn't know how to handle it. Say it's your boss, right? So you don't know what to say back. I say, think about it that night. And remember, oh yeah, I did not like it when he said this to me or she said this to me. And see yourself and really feel what you were feeling right then. And we get a do-over. This mind consciousness that we are is profound. You can actually recreate things right in here or here, wherever it is. I don't like to think of it all as in the head. But relive that situation. How else, now that you're away from the intensity of it, how else could you have handled that stressful moment? What right response could you have said as opposed to taking it in? We're taking it in here, right? Wherever we take it in our bodies, it's different for everyone. But do a redo, a do-over. See yourself speaking back to that person in a right way, not yelling at you, but you know, I really don't agree with what you said about that. I'll go along because you're my supervisor or whatever, but I think this is a really good way we could do it. Or whatever you can think of after the fact. You just weren't able to handle it in that moment. And when we can do these redos in our head, first of all, it gives you the opportunity that next time when it happens, you have something to say.
Yeah, so what do you think of that idea? Like, how important do you think it is for us to be able to express ourselves and our feelings? Because those kind of stored emotions in the body very much, you know, do take up, they take up so much of that space of making us feel stressed and angry, and you know, then leads into disease and illness and all this kind of stuff because we haven't been able to express with our words how we actually feel. And I do feel like in Sri Lanka, people they're non-confrontational by nature, right? So instead of saying what they feel, they will repress that feeling, right? And how does that really, you know, contribute to our stress and our longevity?
Exactly, and I really feel that just this ability to feel what you feel. I feel that on some levels, most of these, because some people can handle situations well, right? You might handle it differently than I do, because I have different triggers in me from my life and my childhood, right? Depending on how our parents were, then we're able to say something back. We don't say anything at all, you know, what our life was. And so when you can feel the feelings coming up in the moment, actually feel it, you begin to clear these patterns instead of storing it in your body and reliving them. That's what we end up doing, repeating patterns over and over, job after job, relationship after relationship, when it's really some old wound that we never got to really heal and express. And I see life as an opportunity every day to like clear the slate, clear the mind, clear the body from all the wounds and hurts of the past, so that we're really fresh and free in the moment to do our work and to live our lives.
Thank you for that. Ladies, we know that the people who live the longest, they live with a sense of purpose, and it's something that I teach my clients all the time, to do something that gives them purpose, not just a job that kind of brings them money, but something that really gives them something that feeds their soul. Serena, what do you think that this role of having purpose in your life plays in long-term health? Not just a job.
Me personally?
Yeah, for you personally.
Right, I'm going to be really honest. With everything that I'm witnessing in the world at the moment, honestly, if I didn't speak for what I believe and I didn't stand up against injustice, which is very much a part of how I live my life, I think I would have gone mad. I honestly think that my mind wouldn't have been able to process everything that I'm witnessing in the world. So your sense of purpose will be individual. Mine has taken me to be observant of things that are global, and that's where I'm putting my energy. But I think without a sense of purpose, I think we get depressed. I think it's just really bad for our health, honestly. Mental health issues are rife, I think, mostly because lots of people are doing jobs they really hate and going to sit in an office and daily just doing something they're not interested in, and we don't all have the luxury of doing something we love. And so without that in your job, then you kind of have to create that sense of passion and purpose in your life, so you have a balance. Of course, we all have to go to work, we all have to earn our living, we all have to pay for our kids to go to school and do all of those things. But for me, even just teaching about this, raising awareness that for your own health, you need to understand your connection with your community. You have to observe around you. Oh my gosh, I live in Colombo, and actually there's huge amounts of inequity in this city. I came here and saw a jogger who's obviously looking after their well-being, and then you see a homeless person. That might not be your area of interest, but how do you affect change for others who are less privileged than you? I feel like that gives us a sense of purpose. Wanting everybody to enjoy well-being, not just you and the people you know. I don't know, that's just my take on it, really.
Thank you for that. Kamala, how do you think you can connect with your sense of purpose if you're feeling lost or numb or disconnected from yourself?
Yeah, I also can speak personally. It's kind of been my experience this last year or two, actually, for the first time in my life. I've always been very active, doing, busy, teaching, traveling, and well, on the one hand, I always say that you have to do what you love, and it doesn't mean it has to be for your job, you know? Just do what you love. So if you have to be a secretary by day, be a dancer by night.
Absolutely, I think that is so important.
Be a singer by day and night. But do what you love. Don't hold it back because you can't find a job in that area.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't box yourself into being just one thing. Oh, this is what I do for my living and that's it.
Yes.
No, I mean, if you really have a passion about something that feeds your soul,
Yes.
then that's absolutely something that you should explore, even if it is in your downtime. You know, I always tell clients of mine, you never know what passion you have that actually can be monetized down the line, because you feel so good about it, you find a way that you can actually make a living from doing it, but you would never know if you never explored that avenue, right?
Yes. So the doing of it, and also living in India for so long, and Rishikesh, which is like holy city, and I would have so many students come and, oh Kamala, I just want to sit and meditate. I just want to stay here and meditate. And I would do these sessions with them, and I'd say, go home and get a job. You know? Okay, this is really lovely. Seriously, I'm a spiritual teacher, and I'm telling you, go work. Because we come on earth to be all of who we are, right? And you know, this whole thing about just being so spiritual and meditating or doing yoga all day, and why come on the earth? Why come on planet Earth if you're not going to do and participate? So find your purpose, find what you love. And yet, as I was saying for myself, there are times when it's a fog, you know, where you just don't know what it is that you should be doing. And you need to be still and really listen to yourself. Maybe it's time for that inner healing work that you need to do. Maybe there's some new thing, new purpose that's going to be born in you, but you can't do that until you have worked with whatever it is that you need to within yourself. So that waiting period is a little tough sometimes when that new thing hasn't shown itself. But enjoy your life as much as you can, but allow these ebbs and flows to be. You don't have to always do. In the West, that's what we are always doing, and we really miss the joys of life. So be with family, be with friends. Don't worry, you know, we're so worried that next job, when is it gonna come? And that's the last thing I want to say about that, is that I know that within us is everything. All the answers, all the help. We live from this human mind. I feel that the mind is made up of three things. What our parents taught us, what we learned in school, and what we read, and our experiences in life, right? That's pretty much what's in here, or wherever the brain is, the mind is. If I was raised in Japan, my parents would have taught me something different. I would have learned different things in school, and my experiences would be different, right? So each of us has a limited amount of information in here. But in here is the unlimited. And we all have that oneness that you were talking about, and it is aware of everything. So a lot of people come to me and say, I hate my job, but I can't leave because how am I going to pay my bills, right? So they stay stuck. I hate my job, but I can't leave, I'm stuck, right? But when we go, that's what the mind knows. That's all the mind can see. I hate my job, I'm not going to be able to take care of my family. It's stuck. It's so small. But this greater self that you are connected to all, that oneness, knows 10 options for you. So I really suggest that you go inside more, ask inside for your answers, and you know, it's fine with me, whether it's religion, prayer, it doesn't matter, but ask for your answers instead of just what you can see with your mind, because this is so small and we are so great.
Right. I mean, this idea that, you know, there are so many possibilities out there. It's about us I agree with you, you kind of have to turn inwards. And I remember many years ago, I stopped singing after my dad passed away, and I said, I'm never going to sing again. And I was very, very sad about it, because that was the one I loved the most when I was young. And then I remember I was at a very low point in my life about 12 years ago, just right before I moved to Sri Lanka. And I hadn't sung in about 8 or 9 years. And I just thought, you know what, I want to sing again. And I'm going to ask the universe to bring music back into my life somehow. And I just started to pray on it. I mean, I thought I was meditating, but I was just kind of like closing my eyes and going, hi God, it's me. So I'd really like to sing again. So if you could just find a way to make that happen for me, I'd be really grateful. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I just know that if I just put it out there, I just feel like it's going to happen. And, you know, I just kept doing that every day, over and over again for about 3 months. And then one day I remember I was in the gym in London, I was on the treadmill and I was doing my thing, and my phone rang and I didn't recognize the number, and I picked up the phone and I was like, hello? And they were like, hi, is this Tanuja Perera? And I said, yeah, it is. I'm like, oh hi, yeah, we just got your details. We're from the X Factor. We heard that you're a very good singer, and we'd love to invite you in for a private audition. We'd like to have like a few good singers that are always coming through the auditions that we know will be able to represent that. And we heard about you, so we'd love. I was like, what the actual what is going on right now? I couldn't believe it. So I did go and I did my auditions every day. I obviously didn't win, but I kept doing this. I kept putting it out there. I want this, I want this, I want this. The next minute, my friend Natalie called me. She's like, Baba, do you want to come to Colombo? We're just opening this hotel called the Kingsbury and we'd love for you to come and like do the opening. And I was like, yeah, I do want to do it. And I just kept going with it, kept going with it. And by just saying, yes, this is what I want to do again, somehow the universe met me with that. And I know that sounds completely woo-woo and cuckoo and all the rest of it, but I promise you guys, even if you're doing something you hate, and I was really in a bad place when all of this was happening. I was very, very low. I'd just come out of a previous marriage. I was doing a job I hated, all of it. But because I kept asking the universe to give it to me, please let me do this again, somehow the universe matched that vibration and gave it to me. So I 100% believe, Kamala, in what you said about just going back inside and asking for really what it is that you want.
And she is a great singer.
Kamala is my one-man hype lady. Oh guys, thank you so much for being with us here today. It's been a wonderful conversation with the beautiful Serena and Kamala. Thank you for your insights and everything that you've given to us in this conversation today. I hope that if only one thing that it's shown us is that longevity is not a mystery. It's not found in a supplement or a trend or a quick fix. It's found in how we live and how we move and how we breathe and how we connect, not only to one another, but also how we honor ourselves. So as we live in this fast-paced city, that our biology still hasn't changed. We still thrive in community. We still need purpose. We need movement. We need stillness. And most importantly, we need each other. So I hope that today has reminded you that well-being isn't something that we add on top of our life. It just simply needs to be built into our lifestyle. And as Colombo is moving quickly and consciously to create culture where strength and wisdom and intuition and connection guide us. A culture where longevity isn't just about living together, but it's about living better. Thank you, ladies, again for being here. Thank you to all of you who have come today. I know it must have been very hard after a Friday night to be here and listening to us. And I hope that we all leave today with a commitment to return to ourselves and to live in a way where we can truly thrive. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. What an interesting and useful discussion. Thank you, Dr. Kamala and Serena, for sharing your experience, and of course, Tanuja, for guiding it with such clarity, depth, and your own experience. Thank you for being here. I would like to, yes, let's give them a big round of applause.